What is going on, guys? This is episode 0 of my new podcast. So, about a week ago, I had the idea that I should start up a podcast. And I have been playing around with this idea for a few months. As a lot of you guys probably know, where most of you guys probably know me from is my personal brand. So, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, even TikTok, really recently, me just posting and being on there a lot and trying to provide a lot of value. So recently I had the idea to start a podcast. And in that, it was almost my selfish way of wanting to bring more value by exposing more of myself. And to explain it a little bit more, whenever I think of the value that I give or the things that I bring through Instagram or all of these other places, I always felt like that there was a bit of a hole in what I was trying to do and what I was trying to bring. So, for example, whenever I talk about reselling, I can show you guys items that I bought, and I can look at this, I can have you guys see it, and I can almost take you all the way there with me as far as like being able to video record it and talk about it afterwards. But there are still so many in-depth thoughts. There are still so many little nuances, so many little things that I felt like I was never able to fully cover. And on top of that, I have so many other things that I talk about that I feel like I'm never able to truly get out exactly what I mean or the whole idea of what I'm saying. So I thought, what better way to do this besides starting up a podcast? So, guys, for everybody that does not know me, my name's Cam, and again, welcome to my podcast. I'm so excited to sort of have you guys here because I've never had anything like this for myself. Now, I've been on a few podcasts. I mean, you guys have seen it, some of it at least. I've spoken on stage several times. I've been on interviews a few times, but I've never had anything where I was in control of the voice and I was in control of the platform and what was being said on this platform. So this is super exciting for me. I plan on making a ton of beginner mistakes, and I plan on us going through everything. I want to be able to build a community where we can go through life together. We can laugh, we can have fun, we can learn, we can talk about entrepreneurship, we can talk about mental health, we can talk about fucked up things that happened to us as a kid, we can talk about politics, we can talk about everything that I believe will bring you guys value and in a safe and non-judgmental environment, in a place where things feel wholesome, in a place where we can go off on tangents, where you guys can ask me a question and I can answer it as openly and as honestly as possible, where I can bring you guys value on a very consistent basis. And not only that, I can tap into my network of politicians and entrepreneurs and doctors and scientists and all the people that I know, bring them together all in one place, all in one community, and we all have fun together. So that's probably my biggest goal with this podcast so far. So as I'm recording the first episode, as I'm almost kind of like lost what I'm saying, and really just trying to figure this thing out, I think that it's a really big part of life. And I really would want you guys to take inspiration from what I did as far as me not really knowing a week ago what any of this was going to look like, how I was going to start, what I was going to do, literally anything, and sort of just jumping right in, like saying fuck my fears, fuck everything else around it, any insecurities that I can tell myself, me, the negative thoughts that I feel like people might have of me for doing something like this, like forget all of that and just dive straight in on the obsessiveness of giving you, my listeners, more and more value. So I guess to start off, guys, and I know I talked about it already, I want to tell you guys what this podcast is about. Um, and I want to be able to talk about so many things. It's been taking me a while to really come up with the title of what I want this podcast to be called because I have so many things that I want to talk about that it's been almost impossible for me to pick a name that represents it properly. Because I want to talk about entrepreneurship. I want to talk about my digital marketing background that we'll probably get into later. I want to talk about my reselling that I've been doing right now. I want to talk about personal branding and all the videos and the content and the mindset, most importantly, behind being able to stay consistent and being able to keep going even when it seems like things aren't growing. I want to be able to talk about sports cars. Like LeBron is in the finals right now, and I am the biggest LeBron James fan in the whole entire world. And I think my boy gonna go get another chip. But whenever I sit and we talk about why I feel like he can get another ring, or why I feel like that the Heat's defense might be able to stop LeBron because they have Iggy and Jimmy Butler, but they don't really have anybody to guard AD and JaVale if they go in the 7 foot tall lineup. So I mean, all of those things. My opinions on mental health, my thoughts on the current political climate of the world, and how I feel like that sometimes in presidential elections we can get caught up and so caught up in what the president is doing and what they're arguing and what the Democrats and Republicans are fighting about, that we don't spend enough time in our communities and doing the active work with our mayors, with our police department, with our the Department of Justice, and the people who directly control like our environment that's right in front of us. I'm not saying the president doesn't, but I want to be able to put a focus on that. I want to be able to talk about what it's like in the life of a black man. I want to be able to talk about so many things. I mean, like I got some stellar interviews coming. Like I have such a big network, especially for my digital marketing background, that I have. I mean, like founders of $1 million companies that I want to come in and have talk to us really, people that have just all in all been able to reach a point of success or a point of a few steps ahead of where you and I might be, and being able to pick their brains and extract value from them, literally recording it, putting it on SoundCloud, on YouTube, on Apple Podcast, on wherever it is, so that we all can benefit from having such amazing people. I want to talk about book reviews, and I want to go through Tuesdays with Morrie. I want to go over the 4 Hour Work Week. I want to go over Jab Jab Right Hook. I want to go over Blue Ocean Strategy, and I want to talk about in a 30-minute to maybe hour plus podcast form and give you guys like a full book review on my extensive library that I've probably spent several hundreds of hours just sitting down reading and really trying to understand or get into the mind of people like Steve Jobs or Wozniak or Kobe Bryant or all of these amazing people that were able to achieve such amazing successes. All of the studying that I've done, I want to be able to put, I guess, like a little seed in you guys' brain and be able to push forward off of that so that you can start formulating your own ideas and your own thoughts on things that you might not have known about. So back to my original point, it's just been so difficult for me to choose a name because I want to talk about all of that stuff. And because I want to talk about it so much, I can't name it the Reselling Podcast, or I can't name it the podcast about entrepreneurship, because I want to talk about so many different things. And I think overall, I'm just so excited to have you guys on this journey with me, because it's something that's so fun. It's something that's a little bit scary. It's something that I don't really know what this looks like a week from now. I kind of don't really know what equipment that I need. I'm on my phone and in my earpods, in my, not even AirPods, just like these little earphones I got right now. But I want to be able to push through things. I want to be able to show you guys sort of like the behind the scenes of the mindset and the really intensive mental work that it takes to be a full-time entrepreneur. And with that being said, I want to start off with my next point, which is just sort of my origin story, like my comic book number one story on who I am and how I got to be here today. And I guess I know a lot of you guys probably know me from Instagram. A lot of you are probably some personal friends. But I guess to start off, I am straight out of Dallas, Oak Cliff to be exact, and I'm an only child. Um, as a kid, I found myself being alone a lot of the time. So whenever I was so alone, I learned how to really value and how to really, for lack of a better term, take advantage of my interactions with other people. So if you ever had a face-to-face conversation with me, or even in a ton of my videos, you guys can see how hard I try to resonate with you. And even sometimes it might look like I'm doing it naturally. It's all so intentional, because when I was a kid, I probably spent most of my days by myself. I mean, outside of school, whenever I had free time, I was by myself. So whenever I was around people, I learned how to do small things like smile whenever I'm talking to them. Or whenever I ask somebody how their day is, I intently listen and wait for a response. Or even small things like being able to stroke somebody's ego in order to make them feel better. Or even some other things like to be really, really nice to lunch ladies when I was a kid so that I could get a little bit extra on my plate. It would be things like that that I really took advantage of as a child. And I noticed that I always had a very, very wondering brain. Is I was always thinking about something new. I was always thinking about what I could do different or how I could make something better that was already there. And that eventually led me to the path of playing sports. So when I first started off at sports, I was terrible. I was sort of like a super nerdy, unathletic kid, probably from kindergarten up until my seventh grade year. I was kind of the guy that big goggle glasses, walking around unbalanced, looked like he was about to fall over and made really, really good grades. So I was like a super huge nerd. And now I'm very proud of that. But at the time, I couldn't stand it because I could never get the pretty girls to like me back. But now, from that same point, I eventually branched off into sports because I realized very, very early that I had a natural ability to lead people and to influence people or motivate them to do the things that I thought were important or the things that I thought that we should do. And that translated into sports. So I played sports for a good part of my earlier years, for probably at least 5 to 8 years at least. Um, and when it came to playing sports, at first I was terrible. Like I didn't get off the bench. I'm still this big nerdy kid. But I noticed that's when I learned the value of work away from work, so to speak. Like I noticed myself getting better on the football field whenever I spent more time working outside of it. Whenever I spent more time riding my bike, when I spent more time running or doing push-ups, that's when I noticed myself gradually getting better and better. And it eventually got to the point where I believe it was my seventh grade year when I was at this point, because I have been putting in so much work, so much studying, so much trying to figure out how I can become a better leader and at the same time a better athlete. I was pretty much like this chiseled seventh grader that nobody thought I was in the seventh grade because my body was so big and I was so much taller and faster than everybody else that I got to a point where my coaches who would originally kind of throw me off to the side or had me get in the end of the game when the game is pretty much over with, I noticed those coaches started paying me a lot more attention. They started putting me in certain situations that they usually wouldn't put me in. I mean, pretty much I was a starter and I was looked at as the older person on the team that's expected to lead the team. And in that, I absolutely flourished. Like, oh my God, I have so many crazy football stories from the time when I broke a bone in my shin to the time where like scored my first touchdown. I mean, just all types of like little fun things that I did when I was a child. But it all kind of entangled with me being a leader. And I had such a strong leadership ability to the point where I remember several times where my team was just down and out. And we felt like we were about to lose. And I would come and I would kind of just go off top and I would just give like an amazing speech. I mean, the most amazing speech I guess a 13-year-old could give and rally my troops or get my guys together and get their motivation back or get their mindset back to where it needed to be. And I remember being in so many of those situations and having so much fun doing it. I mean, like, I never thought I would have that much fun in the sports because I started off as such a terrible person at playing. So it eventually got to the point where as I got older, everybody else started becoming just as developed or started putting in that same amount of work that I was putting in earlier on their bodies, whether it was just them getting older and growing and me not growing anymore after the seventh grade, or it was just them working out just as much as I was. And I quickly began to realize that I had the strength of leadership, but I lacked a lot in physical attributes. So I stopped being as fast, or I stopped being as strong, but my mental, was sharper than it had ever been. So I could always tell what was about to happen just because of how many times I had seen it happen before and how quickly I was able to develop the skill of pattern recognition, where it almost got to the point where I was able to outsmart everybody even when I wasn't able to outrun or outjump them. And that led to a really interesting insight that I found out about myself my eighth grade year, because I found it out through a humongous heartbreak. Because the high school that I chose to go to didn't have any sports. And in order for me to go to that school, I pretty much wouldn't be able to play sports anymore. And I'm just like every other kid that came up from the hood, and I wanted to be a NFL superstar. I could not wait to go to the NFL. I didn't care if I was playing basketball, as long as I was a professional athlete doing something. But then again, like what kid doesn't have those dreams being young? And I was there, but I, after going through the heartbreak and figuring out, okay, maybe I might not go to the league the way I had planned on going, I realized that I still had the ability to lead even if I wasn't playing sports. And it's so interesting how that turned out, because a lot of that charisma that I had spent so much time working on, or that being able to, in obviously in a positive way, but in the way of being able to manipulate my environment by using my words or by using my posture or by using the things that I said or things that I did, I noticed that those skills I could still use. And to me, it was like a big brain fuck, because I was just like, oh my God, like I can still have these same qualities. I can still be this same leader, even though I'm not on the field. And it eventually got to the point where I found myself doing leading group projects, where I found myself at the start of PE class, like everybody kind of looking at me to like, okay, like what we gonna do? Um, and I found myself in so many small leadership roles, and it got to the point where I was like, okay, like I can do this. I can actually be good at this, and it was really fun. It was beyond fun, as a matter of fact, because it was something that I was good at, and not only was it something I was good at, but I was able to bring out the best in other people. So that became something that was really fun, and as I got a little bit older, the more I started to realize that I had so much empty time, right? So just almost the same as what I was just telling you guys when I was a kid. I kind of spent a lot of time by myself because I was an only child. It became the same thing as I got a lot older. And the older I got, I kind of would sort of spend more time alone, not because I wanted to be by myself or not because I was a loner, so to speak. I can be very extroverted, but I am a naturally introverted person, and I will more than likely prefer being by myself than I would being in a very large group of people. And so that kind of manifested itself. And I found myself being in lots and lots of situations where I would be able to be by myself. And I got to a point where I was sort of just bored, as in I wasn't taking up all of my time playing sports. And I got to the point where school was just beyond boring, because everything that I focused on or tried to do, I was able to be really good at it, really smart, and I can make things stick whenever I cared enough to make them stick. So I got bored with school and wasn't playing sports anymore. I mean, I was never the type of kid that would just like, start drawing or pick up a lots of arts and crafts. So I remember sitting in my bed one day, and this was probably my freshman year of high school. I sat in the bed one day. I remember Googling how to make money online because I wanted to buy a pair of new shoes that I absolutely could not afford. And my mom told me straight up she wasn't going to buy them for me. And I was like, okay, I got to figure out some way how to hustle, how to make it. I have probably mowed every lawn on my block at this time. And I still didn't have enough to get the shoes that I wanted. So I remember Googling how to make money online. This is my freshman year. And I remember seeing so much stuff. I remember seeing things like affiliate marketing, things like becoming an influencer, things like starting up Instagram and Facebook pages and building a huge following off of them and eventually making money off of it. And then I tried them all. I probably tried every single one and failed terribly. Oh my God, it was so gruesome, like the amount of failure that I had to go through to get to the end of this story. But I mean, like I was trying this thing. I was like, okay, this doesn't work. And I'm talking about I'm on like a $200 laptop that barely works, that's kind of falling apart, and I'm spending 7, 8 hours a day trying to figure out and learn a lot of these things and a lot of these techniques. So I'm sitting and I'm trying to figure out all of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, this didn't work. Scrap it. Try something else. Okay, this didn't work. Let's scrap it. Let's try something else. And I think that was probably the foundation of me being able to understand failure and how important failure is in the life of an entrepreneur and really anybody. So I remember almost to the point where I was about to give up, I ran across this thing and it was called drop shipping. And I was like, drop shipping? What the hell is this? And essentially, it's you being able to make a website, put a product on the website that you don't physically have in your hand. So almost the exact opposite of what I do right now when it comes to reselling. And because you don't physically have this product, a supplier has it. And you make a website with this product. Somebody pays you, let's say $20 for this product. You pay your supplier $10 because that's how much the product actually costs, and they ship it out to the person who just ordered from you. You keep the $10 profit that you made from that item. I was like, well, oh hell, this seems fun. Like, it seems super interesting. Let me give this a shot. And that turned into almost 4, maybe even 5 years of my first entrepreneurial journey. As a matter of fact, this is my first e-com brand and my first dropshipping store. It was an anime store called Sub Now Dub, and this was the logo from that store. So anytime I'm ever like reminiscing like I'm doing now, I always put this shirt on because of how much it means to me, and how young I was whenever I created, and how many trials and tribulations that I had to go through in order to get to a point of success when it came to running that store. So I remember I got into drop shipping thinking it would be something fun, thinking it would be sort of like a get rich quick scheme. I'm looking at all of these people on YouTube, even though it wasn't as big as it is now. As a matter of fact, drop shipping when I started back in 2015, I believe, hadn't became a trending thing. So it wasn't as many people selling courses, which means it wasn't as many people giving out guidance on how to actually get started into e-commerce and digital marketing and ads and all of that good stuff. So I mean, I made so many atrocious websites. Like, oh my God, I made some terrible websites. I can't believe people even bought from some of that stuff. It's almost funny whenever I sit back and think about it, because I eventually became somebody who loved crafting and putting together websites. Where whenever I was at my prime, so to speak, I could put together an amazing website in like 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and a half, and it seriously be like an amazing and stunning website because I had spent so much of my time at first learning how to master creating websites because I wanted to master drop shipping. And little did I know at that time, drop shipping is such a multifaceted business where there are so many moving pieces to the business, and if just one of those pieces are off, the whole thing is off, and you're almost wasting your time because you can't make any money through it. And that became something that I became very, very obsessive over, was drop shipping and trying to figure out how I can make the best digital marketing brand possible. So this was actually my first successful store, the anime store, the one that's on my t-shirt that I was just telling you guys about. Successful as in the sense of I believe I made $200 or $300 in, I want to tell you, a week. But I did that at 16, and I did that on my phone pretty much, and I hadn't really done anything. I hadn't actively worked as hard as I usually would have, whether it been mowing lawns or whether it had been from my part-time job. I was able to make money almost in my sleep, as a matter of fact, because if I remember correctly, I put the ads up at night and I woke up to sales. I woke up to sales that morning. And that was probably the most eye-opening experience for me, because I after about doing it for about, I want to tell you, close to 6 months, I realized it was possible to actually build a business by dropshipping or by doing what I had tried so hard to do. And after creating the Sub Now Dub store, I realized that it was kind of copyright, that you're really not supposed to sell anime products because you don't actually own any of the stuff. So after I figured that part out, I was like, okay, maybe I should move on from doing this. But after I scrapped from doing that store, I couldn't replicate the success that I had found in it. And that was so hard for me to push through, because I had seen success. I had seen it as in had the bank statements for the success, quote unquote, that I had seen, but I couldn't replicate those same results. And that almost broke me in half in the sense that I was doing so many hours at my part-time job and literally all of the money was going straight into my drop shipping business. So probably like $1,000 a month for a 16, 17 year old, and I'm just recycling it back into my drop shipping business, and I'm trying to figure out how can I make this thing work how it was working before. Long story short, and this is like a super lesson in life, is that whenever you're trying to make something work or whenever you're trying to like do something, you have to keep going. You have to focus on almost one thing at a time. Whenever something is this multifaceted as drop shipping, because I would focus on one strategy, and before I let that strategy play out, before I force that strategy to work, I would switch over to another one, and that eventually caused a really, really repeating cycle of not feeling better and sort of feeling the same way, just in different ways, multiple times. So after about I want to say 2 or 3 years from me starting my first ever dropshipping store, I kept hitting the same wall in the sense where I was able to make a little bit of money, but then it would all kind of just stop, and I wasn't able to do it anymore because I couldn't figure out how to get the same strategies and make them happen over and over again. After I get to this point, that's whenever I sit down and I say, okay, I need to figure out how to make this work. I need to figure out exactly what I'm doing and exactly how I can go about doing something better because I pretty much spent all my money dropshipping. I don't have a job anymore because I think I had quit my job or I got fired from it. I can't remember what happened. But I was like, okay, I need to figure out how to make this work. I kind of put my back up against the wall and said, I need to figure out something. So I said, let me figure out what I'm good at. And I was like, well, I'm good at obviously the anime page that I started up. So maybe I can't start up a store this time, but maybe I can go to someone who already has a following and I can figure out a following of anime lovers and I can figure out how I can extract some sort of income from that audience. So I probably sent 100 DMs to different Instagram pages saying, hey, I would like to buy your page. It was kind of a rules because I didn't have a lot of money. I wasn't going to buy the page. But I probably sent out 100 DMs. I think two of them responded. One of them actually kept the conversation going. And it was a Naruto page. My favorite anime by far. I absolutely love Naruto. They had about 40,000 followers. I asked how much did they want to buy the page. They said like 1,400, which is probably a reasonable price for that page, but way more than what I actually had. So I said, how about this? I will work for you for free. As a matter of fact, let's do this. Let's do 3 months of me working for free. And then after that 3 months of me running this page completely for you, the way Instagram pages make money or pages like I'm talking about is they sell shout outs. So a person who will run a business will pay that person to post their ad on that page. So I said, I will run this entire business for you. All of the money that I get sent from a shout out, I'm going to send directly to you. Don't worry about it. Let me handle everything. After a few days of kind of just talking and negotiating and getting to know each other better, the person on the other side of the phone was like, sure, let's do it. I had mentioned a while earlier in one of those conversations of us getting to know each other that I had a background in drop shipping, but that was kind of the end of it. I didn't talk about how much I had failed. I just said I'm really, really into the game. So after that, that's whenever I probably ran this page for, I want to tell you, in about 2.5 months, I increased that following from 40K to almost 90,000 followers. So pretty much doubled that following in a very, very short and significant amount of time because I was really, really good at being able to understand where people's attention is and how to bring value to wherever their attention is or to wherever somebody is passionate about, because all I was really doing was putting myself in a customer's shoes or a follower's shoes in this point and asking myself repeatedly, if I follow this page, what was something that I would want to see done? So think about, any Instagram or any page that you follow about your favorite TV show, about your favorite celebrity or anything like that. I would just ask myself, what would I want to see? And so I repeatedly did that over and over again. And the 3 months ended. So the person who ran that page was like very, very impressed and was like, hey, like I'm almost ready to just give you the page if you want it. Just because I have so many other ones that I frankly don't care about this one. So you can pretty much take this one I told him I didn't really necessarily want to do that because I didn't understand how I could make a ton of money from it, realizing that you could, with the page like that, you could only realistically make about $100 or $200 a month. And I was spending a lot of time on that page. So I said, I don't really want to do that. The person suggested to me, well, okay, I have a plethora of other pages. If you want to help me run and grow those, then let's make a partnership. I jumped at that because I was like, deal, like 7 or 8 pages. I'm thinking if I can run these at the $200 that I'm making a month off this page, then I'll be set. That eventually turned into a relationship with Alex, who was probably my first ever business partner. And Alex taught me so much about digital marketing because before, and I didn't know this at the time, Alex was actually a dropshipper as well. And he had failed, so to speak, a ton at dropshipping. Not in the same way I failed. Alex was able to make a lot of revenue from dropshipping, but he wasn't able to make a ton of profit. So it's like he would make $10,000 in a month, but sometimes he would lose $300 or $400, which made the $10,000 that he made in a way sort of worthless. So I said, well, let's try partnering up on a store. He says, well, you know what? Deal. Let's try partnering up on it. I had a few $100s that I could put up. I pretty much already had a website made and ready. He had a few products that he wanted to test. So we eventually matched ourselves together. And in the first month of us working together, I want to tell you we made $20,000 with about 4,000 profit. Now this was about a year ago, so I forgot most of the numbers. But we eventually partnered up together for almost 6 months, Alex and I, and we grew a completely separate Instagram page, a teeth whitening brand, as a matter of fact. And we grew that page to over 100,000 followers. As a matter of fact, we just sold that brand a few months ago. Um, we were able to grow that brand. I was able to see at a very young age six figures in revenue. Please don't get that mistaken though, because revenue does not always mean profit. But I was able to see several hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit, and I was able to get the experience of the day in and day out of running a business. And at that time, it was the drop shipping store, which becomes a very, very interesting story of me having to force myself to practice what I preach. Because after about close to a year of running that drop shipping brand, I became very, very, and I mean extremely unhappy with running that brand, to the point where that initial love that I was kind of just talking about that I had for drop shipping, it went away. It was completely gone, and it was complaced with a lot of misery, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of work that I would usually be ecstatic about working out. I just didn't want to do anymore. Combined with that, the store that we had eventually ran, we scaled too fast, which is something nobody told me about business, is that there is a such thing as making too much money too quickly. And at the time, I had absolutely no clue. So in doing that, the store was falling apart. I was falling out of love with the business model that I had spent so much time trying to craft and perfect. And I had just became a really, really understandable, I don't want to say guru because I definitely wasn't, but I understood digital marketing and e-commerce brands very, very, very well. And I still do. This is only like a year ago, this whole story that I'm telling you guys. So after that point, I stopped my e-com stores. I mean, I started running a few kind of like last ditch efforts, really just trying to get my groove back. And I just stopped. And I felt very, very worthless because I had tried so hard to master something. And I had mastered it. I had gotten to all the points. I had seen the money, every goal that I had set up. Didn't just accomplish it. I literally blew it out of the water. And now that I had done it, I didn't know what I was going to do anymore. And that was such a terrible feeling because I didn't know what my next steps looked like after my e-commerce journey, so to speak, was over with. And on top of that, I wasn't making a lot of the same money that I was making before. So I was depressed, and then I was halfway broke. So at the same time, those two together, they don't mix well. So I remember sitting in my room, and I remember saying, like, at my part-time job, as a matter of fact, I was sitting and I said, what am I gonna do? Right now, my part-time job is the only income that I have, which is like $400 to maybe $600 a month. I'm only really keeping this job because my friends work here, and I just love spending time with my friends. But as far as an income standpoint, this isn't gonna really pay any of my bills. So like, what do? I had gotten really good at watching YouTube videos at this point, probably like most of us. And I remember watching a Gary Vee Trash Talk video. And I remember seeing him go into garage sales and picking up stuff and then just selling it for like stupid amounts of profit. I had sold like a pair of shoes or something off on OfferUp before, and I remember having the idea, what if I did this 10 times a month? Like the $60 I just made off these shoes, what if I did this 10 times a month? Well, hell, then I would have $600, and then I would have 600 on top of the 6 or 800 that I'm making off my part-time job. And while it's not the financial place I want to be at, it's much better than where I'm at. So hell, let me start trying to do this. And I had tried reselling before, just off something fun to do, hanging with my friends. But I said, well, let me try doing it seriously as a business. Now we're rolling up to about 6 months ago, whenever quarantine first started. And so in the midst of that quarantine, I said, well, let me try reselling. At the same time, I got very upset with my part-time job, with the decision that my supervisor had made that I didn't like. And I was like, well, I don't necessarily like it, but you're the boss. So because I don't really want to be around it at this time, I quit. And in the middle of a pandemic, so this is like the whole economy has shut down, and I decided to quit my job that was probably going to keep paying me without me doing a ton of work. But again, it got to the point where I was doing something that wasn't making me happy. And not only was it making me happy, I stopped feeling fulfilled in the work that I was doing. So I had to stop doing it. I stopped doing it and I could pick up something almost completely new. Like I was an entrepreneur, so I definitely knew how to buy and sell. And some of my very, very early drop shipping was on platforms like eBay where you spend a lot of time reselling. So I was familiar with some of the stuff, but I pretty much jumped into an entirely new business in the middle of a pandemic when like the US economy literally came to a standstill, and I decided to start a new business. So I mean, like, how smart was that, right? And I get to a point where and the point where I'm at now, and I started documenting a lot of that journey, which is where I got a lot of followers, probably like the people who are listening to this right now. And I was able to build up like a much bigger following. I was able to meet so many amazing people. I was able to get so many beautiful messages about some random thought that I had that about positivity was able to bring somebody out of a mentally tough or a seriously dark place. And it became such an amazing thing. And I realized that I had a voice, and I realized that me being quiet, like I had spent so many years doing, that me being so afraid of other people's judgment, or me being so worried about what people would think about me, or even what I would think about myself, if I put myself out there into a place that was sort of unknown. Whenever I decided to put all of that aside and focus on just giving the people who follow me value, I was able to reach such an amazing mental place. And once I got to that place, I almost became addicted to it. And now I'm at the point where I'm obsessed with giving my audience as much value and allowing them to see as much of my life as I can possibly give. And this has overall been such a super dope and a super amazing experience because I just love it so much. And I plan on keep doing it. And I want to keep growing. I want to keep growing the family. I want to keep providing as much immense amounts of value as possible. And I just want to keep going. I have no plans on stopping. I want to be my goal is to be a much bigger entrepreneur than Mark Cuban. So it might take a whole lot of work, but Mark, I'm coming for you, dog. So that is my origin story, and that is my 20-year journey wrapped up into about maybe 15 or 20 minutes of me telling this story. And on top of that, I think that this is podcast 00. So I mean, I can't. If you guys can hear it, I'm just like so excited. I'm fumbling over my words, and I'm just so excited because we literally, and I mean me, like me and you, we sat down and did the first edition of this podcast, and I am I mean, like, beyond excited. I have so many more things planned out for you guys. I have so many book reviews. I have so many interviews. I have so many thoughts that I want to get together and share with you guys that I think this is gonna be amazing. So guys, until the next time we talk, y'all keep it real, keep hustling, keep driving, keep loving the people that are close to you. Keep going. Just keep going. Keep being in love with the things you do, or fight harder to find your purpose. Fight harder to figure out what it is that you're put here to do. Because I promise we're all here for some special reason. And our life is nothing but a compilation of self-awareness and figuring out what that one thing is. And once we figure it out, it's figuring out how we can do it to our absolute fullest. So guys, again, my name's Cam, and this is Cam Talks. I think I haven't really came up with a name like that. But again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, stay real.